Yeah, gents, let's do it, man. Let's break it down. The difference between false masculinity and the real deal, because that's what we're striving for. That 1%. Right? We don't want to be the majority. So right now, let's talk about physique real quick versus ability. Right now, there's a whole culture of influencers on Instagram and YouTube, you name it, and they're shredded and they look good with their shirt off. And yet the sole purpose of their narrative is to increase their sales and their status. And although Physique Boy looks good with his shirt off, the real question is he formidable? Does he actually have ability? Can he protect? Can he provide with his strength? Because strength, the real purpose of strength, is much more serious than just using it for your own gain. The 1% man actually builds his strength on behalf of others. He understands his muscles aren't for him. They're on behalf of others. He develops himself to make himself more formidable and capable as a protector and as a leader. It's about building his ability for the greater good. So that's the difference. Ability focused versus physique focused. Lock that in. What about status versus value? The majority of men go for status. Like I see all these videos on social, guys pitching, they're showing you their cars, their high-end watches, their houses, their private jets, and all that stuff's great. Like that's awesome. I'm glad you could do that, But they're trying to constantly differentiate themselves to show people around him that he's here. He's up here, right? And yet these guys are mortal men. And when he dies, he goes into the wooden casket just like the rest of humanity, right? But the 1% man is value focused. They want to give value to others around them. They're actually not too concerned about status. They're not even thinking about themselves primarily. They're thinking, how can I be of service to my wife, my kids, my local community, and my tribe? How can I make their lives better? How can I offload their burdens? So like a good example is like the normal guy who comes home from work. He's got a bunch of kids and the house is messy and his wife's all stressed out. He actually lays down his own load for a minute and helps with the dishes. And if he can't help with the dishes, maybe he pays for a housekeeper because his focal point is to ease the struggle of those around him. It's not about status. It's about value, offering value. All right. What about leaders who lead for selfish gain versus leaders who lead on behalf of others? So the majority view of leadership that I see online is to be the front man. It's to be the captain. It's to wield the power, whether that's business, government, or maybe even in marriage. A lot of these talking heads, they're just too self-focused, too self-referential. It's not about leading others to serve them. It's about the best seat at the table. And it's about rhetoric. It's about sounding good, right? It's about selfish gain. But real men, the 1% men, they use their gifts and their strength and their influence to serve others. Because listen, guys, true leadership is not about being the best. It's about making everyone around you better. True leadership actually makes your life harder because you have to hold yourself to a much higher standard, right? True leadership, a great picture is Atlas, like Greek mythology, holding the burdens of the world, taking the responsibility upon his own shoulders because it's on behalf of others. It's not about him. If you want to find your life, you got to lose it. The words of Jesus, right? Okay. What about predators versus protectors? So predators are men who undermine women. These are the guys people call toxic, all right? They learn how to manipulate women so they can get laid. They use women as a receptacle. They use women's beauty to validate themselves as a man. They teach other men how to do it. There's a whole industry on pickup artistry surrounding this idea. They aren't interested in protecting a woman's reputation or her dignity. And I just ask, what's exceptional about that? Like, how is that admirable? The 1% man is actually a fierce protector. He picks one woman. He takes care of her. He protects her for the rest of his freaking life. He protects her from men who want to use her. from predators, and especially from wolves in sheep's clothing, who sound good but aren't good. And he's devoted to her through all the stages of life, even as she ages. He doesn't toss her aside. And I think you'll find, as I'm finding, you'll still be attracted to your woman as you both age, because you've invested so much into one another, right? The grass is greener where you water it, is the idea. All right, last category. Boys who play versus men who work. Like consumers versus producers. So like 99% of the majority, men or males, make excuses for their boyhood fantasies. Video games, binge watching TV, escapism through semi-frequent substance abuse or pornography. And this is a man behaving like a child. He's a consumer. And guys, I've been there. Okay, I'm not talking at you. Like, we've all wrestled with that stuff, right? But true masculinity, true legit 1% contenders are generative. They produce. They set aside fantasies. They take life head on. They attack their own laziness, their lust, their gluttony. They don't make peace with those things, right? They're productive. They actually contribute to society. So my hope for you guys is that you learn how to differentiate between actual high value masculine traits and the low value garbage that's being propagated on a lot of these social media accounts.